All right, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Squares. We got another great one today. My name's Shane.
I'm Carrie.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. Let's get this show started.
All right, welcome to another episode. This is going to be another review. This is kind of an interesting one that Paul brought to us. So, Paul, I'm going to let you kind of kick it off.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Shane. So this one is called Universum. Number one, Execution. Kind of a strange book. It looks like a little bit of an underground type of demon freeing people and talking to their elders and their court of murderous demons. So it's kind of hard to place it. It's got a lot of things going on. It's got some pretty good art. It's got a pretty dark tone, and then kind of swings into a little bit of levity. But real interested in seeing what the rest of you guys thought about it.
I'm going to hold off.
I can start.
Are you?
So I'll
Okay.
I'll start. I actually really enjoyed this one.
Oh.
The artistry is the first thing that caught my eye.
Yeah.
The opening panels, they have this brilliant use of blues for fire. Made me think a lot of the artistry used in Hercules for Disney. Did a Hercules movie, and the way they portrayed fire and these demons and this ritual and everything like that, I thought was really brilliantly portrayed on the pages. And just overall, even when they shift locations and characters and what they're talking about, I thought the artistry was really well done for each section. There is a stop, change, start of thought for the second part of the book, where you're kind of in this demony area in the beginning, like Paul said, a little bit of a rituals going on, and then there's this switch over to like Robin Hood, Lord of the Rings experience, where I mean, several of us were talking beforehand, and we got to Aragorn immediately, which is funny. Like I had it written down, someone else said it. It portrays itself very obviously, and then I would say like the way the story is going, I'm definitely interested to read the next one. They do tell enough in the beginning with this ritual that's going on that has me be intrigued as to how all the characters do tie in together. Although they seem very separated, I think there is a meshing point for the stories to come together. So I am interested to see where this one goes.
All right.
So I will say I know we do these reviews, and sometimes again in chatting with my fellow squares, they have different takes on this book. Again, that's sometimes what you get, right? You're never sure what the audience, how it's going to receive it, or what type of audience is going to be reading it. And so for me personally, I absolutely loved this book. Kind of what Carrie was saying, the initial use of color and art to me was, I loved it. And so to me, I don't know if it resonated with me just because like I'm a Dungeons and Dragons type of person. Enjoy the Lord of the Rings. I enjoy, it's just there's a lot of even though for some I could see where even if you get lost, sometimes getting lost a little bit is expected when you're first introducing a story or a whether that be character in evolvement or situational evolvement. But to me, like for some reason it just hooked me so much that I didn't, even though I was lost, I just just a couple places I was enjoying it so much. To me, I think it really came down to just the beautiful artwork. And to me, it was also very like it was kind of dark and ominous at the beginning. And then it was so funny to me because you've got this dark situation that's happening, and I won't spoil it, but there's like a graphic moment that's kind of horror-ish at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, kind of like the main villain is speaking to what it calls its generals. So it almost made me think a little bit like of the Four Horsemen. But I think in this case there were five generals. I think, if I remember correctly. But it was funny because they were kind of squabbling amongst themselves. So it went from this really dark place to kind of a little bit of a humorous tone where they were squabbling amongst themselves, and then the I don't know if you've ever seen like the little chibis. They're like how you draw like the
yeah.
right. It's just, to me, like that for some people, and you may hear this amongst my fellow squares coming up, but it was very it kind of turned them off. But in my particular case, for whatever reason, I was hooked so much. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying every panel. So to me, this is one of those that just for whatever reason, I can't tell you all the reasons why. It just totally, I loved this book, and I would read the entire, I would keep reading on and on and on. I don't know. It was weird. I know for some, because it does transition kind of abruptly, but I think just sometimes the little details, like sometimes the artwork, like what they focused on, like I can't really say it without spoiling it because it's kind of towards the end. But anyway, just the details of the book were fabulous for me.
You know what I wanted
I mean,
to add?
that's
sorry, Shane, I'm going to interrupt just for a second.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to add
Yeah.
at the end where there's like another little tone shift. It reminds me of Valerian. Like there's a signal that gets sent out and a message with that signal. But we don't know anything about it, right? Like we just know that it happened.
Right.
And so I thought that was a really neat use of that. I don't know, what would you say? Like that thing that happened in that movie or that set of comic books. I thought it was a neat tie into that, like this space message that is meant to convey something, but you're left with like, what is happening? So I wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I mean no, absolutely, and that's what I love about doing these reviews, is to hear everybody's thoughts, and definitely, everybody has their own style of thing that they enjoy. I know for a fact, just me personally, I'm just not a huge fan of kind of the sword and sorcery demon. I can see this having a very like Carrie mentioned, kind of Lord of the Rings influence. Even the main character kind of reminded me of like, what's the name of the character that
Sauron?
Sauron. Yeah. There you go. And but for me, because I'm probably not as big a fan of this genre, there were just elements that took me out of it. And to Mike's point, you brought them up, that there are definitely some abrupt tonal changes that happen, from this kind of gruesome opening to, I'm going to say, almost like, it's kind of weird to say, but almost like The Office, really, because then he becomes, the manager, and like they're all bumbling idiots who are like trying to get his approval, but they have this, like, they're demons, and I'm like, wait, what? So I was kind of taken out by a little bit of that, and then what Carrie mentioned, they send the signal at the end, and it's to a space like base thing. So I'm like, wait a minute, are we doing demons, or are we doing space? So that, all of those kind of took me out. Now, to both of your points, the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. I 100% agree with you that it looked beautiful, and I really love your observation, Carrie, about it being the Hercules kind of use of fire and use of motion. Like, it really done well, beautiful. Yeah. So I mean, it's, every book is not going to be for every single person. This one didn't resonate with me as obviously it did with Mike. But it's done incredibly well. It looks beautiful. And for somebody who like is into this genre, obviously it touched something with Mike. So there you go. Paul, what were your thoughts? You picked this one out. So
Yes, I did. So one thing that I'll say is, yeah, so the tonal shift was definitely noticeable, but I was able to sort of categorize it really quick. And Carrie, when you pointed out like the blue flame, right? I had something in mind, and you kind of went in another direction. But you know what it made me think of was Hellboy. So,
Oh.
so as I
Oh,
read
yeah,
this
yeah,
book, I thought of it like
yeah.
almost like a Hellboy book, because if you read
Yeah.
Hellboy, Mike Mignola's got that twisted sense of humor where there's all these demons and horrific things going on, and people being shredded apart, and souls being tortured, and all of a sudden there's Hellboy with a cigar making a joke, and I guess when I kind of went there with it, I was like, I'm okay with this. I was okay with the tonal shift. It was abrupt, and it kind of jostled me a second. But then as I went through, I'm like, this reminds me of kind of like a Hellboy type story. So
Hmm.
yeah, and then at the end, of course, with the signal that goes out, and this is worse than I thought, and they're looking at some kind of a message. Yeah, it kind of went towards like a Star Wars type thing, which again I was okay with.
Mhm.
Obviously they're world building, and so that it's pretty quick, and it happens quick, and they don't give you any indication that that's where they're going. You read the first couple pages, and you think you're in for some pretty horrific stuff.
Mhm.
Blood, gore. I'm like, and so now I'm thinking Silent Hill, right? And then all of a sudden it goes the other way, and I'm like, oh, Hellboy. And then I'm at the end, and I
Mhm.
go, oh, Star Wars, and I'm like, well, shit, everything. So
I love that, Paul. I didn't even put that together, but you were so right on about the Hellboy, and maybe that's why this resonates. I
yeah,
love that.
and
I
yeah,
love all
and I do
the
too.
Hellboy stuff.
I love
Yeah,
Hellboy. I like the
yeah,
movies.
yeah, yep.
They do one shot specials of Hellboy every year. They got like winter ones coming up and stuff like that. I always get those. I don't collect all the regular book anymore, but I get the specials occasionally. So I'm kind of used to that
Yeah.
tonal shift, and that sort of that attitude. Plus the movies. When I look at a book like this, I think of it kind of in a thematic sense now, right?
Hmm.
Because we got a plethora of movies out there, the MCU and the rest of them, and there's a lot of independent shows and TV made for movies, Netflix and stuff, and Shane and I are talking about Shudder, we're watching things
Mhm.
like that, so there's like a lot of there's to me when I read a book like this, I almost go to the thematic sense, like, boy, if this was a movie, this would be kind of badass. So I think
Mm.
the tonal shift, I think, Shane, from your perspective, I think, maybe if you think of it in terms of like a Hellboy type thing, like that, it was intentional. I think maybe it was
Yeah.
abrupt, but maybe intentional to just sort of shift it to another, just to maybe include a couple of different genres and a couple of different attitudes, I think is what they were going for. But like you said, some people it hits a little differently than others, but
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
but to Mike's point, it was definitely interesting. It was unique. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got again,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
overtones of things that we've seen and read before, but kind of put in a blender and all zipped up together and kind of poured all over you with
Yeah.
with a decapitation, so you can't go wrong there,
True.
Exactly.
right?
Well,
So,
cool.
yep.
When
Well,
I go,
that's why I love doing these. Oh, go for it, Carrie.
Go
I was
for it.
just going to say too, I went back and was looking over the panels again really quick. And I see Neil Gaiman in there too, a little bit of
Oh
Sandman,
yeah,
like the
sure,
siblings, like
yeah,
the
Yep.
Mhm.
the generals
Oh
are
yeah.
like siblings, and
yeah,
and even some of their
hmm
interactions are very much like
Hmm.
we love and hate each other. Like we work together, but we really kind of hate each other. So I get the like office
Mhm.
space or not office space, the office um
office,
Yeah.
experience that you
Yeah.
had, Shane. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
really funny.
Well, it's always the cutaway to Jim going,
Right. Exactly.
and then they cut back.
Yeah, like the first person for me was Dwight, like, worried about following the rules. That's where I was like, it fell sort of in the office
Yeah,
to
right.
me.
He's
I'd
peeking
be
through the
curious.
blinds,
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear, talk to the creator and see what their influences
right?
were. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Looking back at again, kind of the very dark beginnings, and just the lettering, the bubbles, right? The word bubbles, they're very,
Hmm.
instead of so soft, they're very sharp and pointy,
Hmm.
and just like it all. We sometimes talk about can it draw you in, and in some cases we certainly get distracted with those tonal changes, or again, if the lettering seems off and things are very serious and dark, and you got these cute little word bubbles, and you're like, what? Like, there can definitely be things that take you away. To Shane's point, in this particular case, though, they did I feel like the team did a fantastic job of truly bringing it all together. And maybe that's again what engaged me so fully, was just the lettering and the use of color. And like, I think that makes the tonal changes for me a little bit more acceptable, because it's like, okay, there was a tone shift, but I'm following it, and it might be a little strange or out of place for some, but I don't know. For me, like I said, just the hordes of like demons and all that, like that just brought me back to, oh my gosh, it's like, either like Lord of the Rings or Dungeons and Dragons. You've got all these different characters. You don't know anything about them yet. Like, they're just kind of gathering in masses and stuff like that. I don't know. To me, I just think when we review the book, we always look at the overall picture. And I think that for me, the use of the lettering and how they laid out the panels, along with the colors and the artistry, was fantastic. So,
it's really tough, to your point, Mike, some of the colors that they used, kind of the aquamarine lettering for dialogue. It's really tough to make dark panels kind of stand out. You got to be creative, and they did it here. Sometimes you read a book and they're trying to, portray a very dark image or something very, very shadowy or poorly lit. And it's real hard to define it, but they did a pretty good job here, which, and again, that kind of takes me back to the Hellboy stuff, because that stuff is always like that. And it always really looks good, so
Yeah.
that's kind of what jumped out to me. But, so I guess, to put in short, I mean, I think we're in agreement, that it was interesting. The art was good.
Yeah.
Obviously the tonal shift was a shake, to some, but I think, but in terms of, shooting for the stars and hitting the moon, I think this book did it. I mean, take a swing, right? What have you got to lose? I don't know of much else that I've seen like this. Again, it's different genres put into a blender, zipped up, and I think they did a pretty good job,
Yeah. Well, I always appreciate when you bring unique stuff to us, Paula. So thank you very much. And hopefully, the viewers got a chance to, learn about something that they might have seen on the shelf and might have, maybe walked past. Go back to your comic shop and pick it up. Or if you subscribe to Global Comics, go on there and check it out. Global Comics is a big supporter of our program, and that's where we all reviewed this from. So please support them. Thanks again for tuning in for another episode. We really appreciate you taking the time. And please hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so we can keep bringing you content like this. And we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
bye.